Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Hello, Supriya. Good evening. Welcome. I hope I am audible. Okay. Yeah. So let's start with this session again. We are continuing with the themes in Indian history part 3 textbook. Okay. So this is basically one of the the last NCERT history textbooks that we are looking at, and there are 6 lectures in total. Today is the lecture 2. Yesterday we began this, and probably we'll finish this by next Tuesday or Wednesday. Alright, so let's start with the session. Before that, let me just talk to you about Unacademy. Unacademy is India's largest learning platform, which offers you a wide variety of things, including daily live classes and quizzes, where you can chat with your educator, clear your doubts, etc, etc. Then you have these test series which will help you to evaluate your own preparation and be better prepared during the time of examination. Then you have structured courses where the entire syllabus for the UPSC examination will be covered. And finally, unlimited access to all the Unacademy 11 resources. Okay, so these are the various things that you will get once you subscribe to Unacademy. And the first thing to do is to download the Unacademy learning app. If you have not already done that, please do it, because I conduct my YouTube quizzes using the Unacademy app. Today also at 5:30 p.m. there will be a YouTube quiz. The topic is Modern India, as I have already mentioned in my Telegram channel. So please be ready with the Unacademy learning app by 5:30. So you can download this from Google Play as well as App Store and create an account. My name is Madhav Sankar R Warrier, and this is my Telegram channel, t.me/msrw1. Please subscribe to this channel to get class notes, PDFs, etc, etc. Also, please look into my Unacademy channel, unacademy.com/@msrw. Once you click the follow button in this channel, whenever I schedule a class in the Unacademy app, you will get the corresponding notification. Okay, so Unacademy brings you all the top educators from all over the country, and you can use their expertise in bettering your preparation. So the UPSC package of Unacademy looks something like this. You have all the basic materials such as polity, history, current affairs, etc, etc. Also, you will get the optional courses, which may be hard to get in the local area where you live. Okay, so please do take a look at this, and these are the various subscription plans. For UPSC, there are 2 kinds of subscriptions. One is known as the Plus subscription, which will include everything that I have so far mentioned. The other one is known as Iconic. So the Plus subscription is provided to you in these varying timelines. You can pick one according to your choice and subscribe to it. If you use my code MSRW1, you can actually get 10% discount on any of these subscriptions. Also, for any subscription that is greater than or equal to 6 months in time, you can pay the fees using the no-cost EMI facility, equated monthly installment facilities. Okay, second one is the Iconic subscription. This is tailor-made for the UPSC aspirants, where you will get everything that is in the Plus package, and along with that, you will also get a personal coach, daily mains answer rating practice, study planner, and a personalized feedback session. Okay, so personal coach means an educator will be assigned to you, and you will get many one-on-one sessions where you can improve your preparations. So here also, using my code will provide you 10% discount. Finally, the last one, the UPSC CSE optional package. Here also, pick one optional. Unacademy brings you almost all the optional subjects which are available at UPSC. So please look into that and choose one and subscribe to one of these packages. Here also, using my code MSRW1 will provide you 10% discount. Okay, so one more announcement here. On December 6th, 2020, we are actually starting something known as Unacademy Combat. Okay, the link for this event is given in my Telegram channel, and down in the description box also. Please look into that. Unacademy Combat is an all India level contest, and the winners will get very attractive prizes. Okay, it is a kind of a quiz competition. So this is how it works. It is a 45-minute session, 60 questions, 13 combats are there, 6 sections. You can understand the details of these things from the link that is provided below. Please look into that. Relative scoring method is considered, and it is a fortnightly contest. It happens on all alternative Sundays starting from December 6th all the way to December 20th. Okay, and the prizes are as shown here. The first prize will be an Apple MacBook Air, second place Apple iPad mini, third place Apple AirPod, and the top 100 rankers will get 1000 rupees Amazon vouchers. Okay, so all these attractive prizes are there, so please enroll to the same contest. Starts on December 6th morning 11 a.m. Okay, so make sure to grab your spot. So yeah, Unacademy also offers you a lot of free steps. Okay, not paid steps. Many free steps are also available. Please look into that. In order to unlock free steps in Unacademy, you have to use an educator code, and you can give my code MSRW1. Okay, to unlock the free steps in Unacademy, an educator code is necessary, and you can give this one. Okay, so let's begin. Themes in Indian History, Part 3. Okay, so lecture 2 out of 6. Okay, so today we are going to look at theme 11. Alright, we already completed part 1 and part 2. So today we are looking at theme 11, that is Rebels and the Raj, the Revolt of 1857 and its representations. Okay, so very important point for your UPSC. Be very alert throughout this session. One more thing, I will look into your chat at the end of each slide. So once you ask a question, please wait patiently, because I will look into it only at the end of that particular slide. I will not look in between. Okay, so let's begin. An introduction. So what are we going to look in this chapter, and what are the areas that we are going to cover? All these are provided in this. So a very brief overview says that on the afternoon of 10th May 1857, there happened a mutiny in the Sepoy camp of Meerut. Alright, in the Sepoy camp of Meerut, there happened a mutiny on 10th May 1857. This is how the 1857 revolt began. The very famous Mangal Pandey incident. You might have seen the movie. Okay, so once the mutiny began and it started spreading, not only the Sepoys but ordinary people also joined this mutiny. With the help of the Sepoys, the rebellious, the revolters or the revolutionaries, they started to capture various government buildings. Initially, they captured the Bell of Arms. What is Bell of Arms? Bell of Arms is the government facility where all the arms and ammunitions are kept. Alright, so the guns, the ammunitions, the bullets, etc. are kept in the Bell of Arms. So the Sepoys captured this government facility. And together, the mutineers attacked the white people. Okay, so this is how 1857 revolt started. So eventually, one by one, each of these government buildings were destroyed, plundered. Similarly, the telegraph line which connected Delhi to other places were cut. Why? Because Delhi was the main center of power for Britain. Okay, so communication lines were taken out. Europeans were killed in large numbers. Many Europeans, both the British officers as well as their wives, even their children, many Europeans were massacred or killed by the mutineers. The rich of Delhi were attacked and looted. Not just the Britishers, those people who were in alliance with the British, those people who supported the British, though they were also attacked and looted. Best example, the moneylenders, the rich sections of the society which oppress the lower classes. All these people had to suffer the wrath of the mutineers. They demanded that the emperor give them his blessings. So once the revolt started in Meerut, and after capturing the nearby areas, the revolutionaries moved on to Delhi. Once they reached Delhi, they went into Red Fort, where the last Mughal ruler, Bahadur Shah Zafar II, was stationed, and the mutineers asked Bahadur Shah Zafar to be the nominal head of this revolution. Okay, they wanted Bahadur Shah Zafar as the leader of this revolt. Although reluctant, Bahadur Shah had no other choice but to sign off as the leader of this revolt. So he had no choice but to comply. And hence, the 1857 revolt was carried out in the name of Mughal emperor. Okay, it was nothing like, it wasn't started by the Mughal rulers or their descendants at all. It was started by the Sepoys in Meerut. Later on, more public gathered into this revolt. But eventually, the Mughals had to take up the leadership of this revolt because of popular pressure, because of the pressure put on them by the public. Okay, so this is the very brief overview of how this revolt began. We have to study this in more detail. Don't worry, I will look into that. Good evening, Seema Shetty. So, pattern of the rebellion. So the revolt began. Okay, this rebellion began. So how did it, move forward, or what was the common pattern in the rebellion at various areas? That is what we are going to look at. You have to understand the difference between a mutiny and a rebellion. Okay, a mutiny is an uprising of the armed soldiers. For example, Sepoy mutiny. The Indian Sepoys rose up against the British. That is why it is known as mutiny. We don't say Sepoy rebellion. Okay, it is a Sepoy mutiny. But once the common man also enters this mutiny, it eventually evolved into a rebellion. Alright, if civilians take part in an uprising against the government, then that is known as a rebellion or a revolt. Both revolt and rebellion are synonymous. Okay, so the pattern of the rebellion. So as the news of this mutiny began to travel from one town to another, more and more people started joining this. Not just sepoys, ordinary people, peasants, even the lower sections of the Indian society joined the rebellion. Sequence of events in every cantonment followed a similar pattern. Okay, I mean, all this rebellion happened in a very already prefixed pattern. It was not very random or anything. The first thing they did was to, take power of the bell of arms. In each of these cities, the British had a place where they kept their arms and ammunitions. So first thing first, the revolters captured this particular building. Okay, then they plundered the British treasury in order to get the necessary finance. They attacked government buildings and they burned down all the British records. So this pattern was actually followed in almost everywhere. This is not something that happened in random or by coincidence. This happened because of a pre-planning that went into this rebellion. Alright. Also, the revolters made many proclamations in the local languages. For example, Hindi, Urdu, Persian, etc., calling upon various sections of the society to become united against the British. Irrespective of the religion, irrespective of their social status, the revolutionaries called out to all Indians to come united. They called up to Hindus, Muslims, and all other sections to come against these Firangis. So what are these Firangis? Firangis is actually a derogatory term used to refer to foreigners. Okay, Firangi. So Britishers were referred to as Firangis in the 1857 revolt. Okay, very important point here is that there was no communal element here. Both Hindus and Muslims and all other religious people were, all other people who were in various other religions were brought together in this revolution. Moneylenders and rich also became the objects of rebel wrath. Already told you, those sections in the society which were very much closer to British, such as moneylenders, such as the rich sections, all were targets of these revolutionaries. Peasants not only saw them as oppressors but also as allies of British. The mutiny in Sepoy ranks quickly became a rebellion. So this is how the common man also got into this mutiny. Although it started as a Sepoy mutiny, which was considered the initial cause of this revolt, the infamous Enfield rifle, was something that is related to the military people only, the Sepoys only. But once the Sepoys started this mutiny, they were able to get the civilians involved in this as well. Why? Because they appealed to the common causes, the oppressions made by the British into the Indian society. And because of their, once they were able to convince the Indian society of how brutal the British were, all the Indian sections of the Indian society joined hands against the British oppression. and the Sepoy Mutiny eventually became the Revolt of 1857. Okay, so the lines of communication. So such a massive revolution cannot happen without any proper coordination. Okay, I mean some kind of communication would have happened between the various parts of the country, right? I mean we all know that 1857 revolt was not properly coordinated as such, but still some kind of communication would have happened. Okay, so similarity in pattern of this revolt is a very interesting feature. I told you initially they will capture the bell of arms, then they will destroy all the government buildings, then they will loot the British treasury. Okay, so this was the pattern that was set by these revolutionaries almost everywhere. This cannot be a coincidence. There should have been some planning. So how were these plans made? Who were these planners? Okay, we do not know much into these things, but we know that these things were there. Some of these decisions were taken collectively. Okay, there was no one particular leader or anything. It would have been a collective decision of a group of people. Okay, for example, the Sepoy Mutiny itself. It was not conducted by one Sepoy. Okay, one person did not lead it. It was conducted by that particular regiment together. It was a collective decision. Okay, so basically Sepoys were the makers of their own rebellion. Rather than a particular leader influencing other sections of the society, basically Sepoys started this rebellion all by their own. Okay, so this is how the very famous 1857 revolt began. Questions of history chapter which comes in UPSC. Yeah, I will tell you. Good evening, Saubhagya. Good evening, Ramkumar. So from 1857 revolt, there have been plenty of questions. Mostly that is related with who are the Indian revolutionaries in the revolt, as well as the British officers who oppressed this revolt, who suppressed these revolts. For example, Rani Lakshmi Bai, where was she fighting? Okay, Kunwar Singh, where was he fighting? Tantia Top, where was he fighting? Similarly, who are the British officers who conquered them? Hugh Gross, Colin Campbell, Outram. Okay, so these are the usual questions. Also, there are questions such as what are the causes of 1857 revolt? And say what are the causes of the failure of 1857 revolt? Okay, these kinds of questions are very often seen in prelims. For mains, in-depth questions will be asked. Okay, you have to know the crux of the revolt to answer the mains questions that come in this area. For example, the power of rumors. 1857 revolt started because of a rumor regarding the Enfield rifle. Okay, so in-depth analysis is required for answering mains questions. I have already taken a session known as Revolt of 1857 in Unacademy app. If you haven't seen that, please go back and watch it. It covers it comprehensively. In this session, I am concentrating into the 12th standard NCERT textbook, but there I have covered the whole picture comprehensively in the Unacademy session that happened about 2 months ago. You can go back and watch it. Alright, so the leaders and the followers. So such a vast revolt cannot be leaderless. At least some local leaders should have been present. So naturally, in the 1857 revolt, there were many leading figures in India who actually conducted or who actually led the revolt in various areas. So leadership and organization was required. Rush to Delhi and appeal to the old Mughal emperor to accept the leadership of the revolt. So already I mentioned this point. The revolutionaries who started the revolt in Meerut, they marched to Delhi, they entered Red Fort and they demanded that the Mughal emperor take up the leadership of this revolt. Okay, Bahadur Shah Zafar was actually afraid at the beginning. His first reaction was of horror and rejection. He did not want to lead this revolt. Okay, I mean it was the month of Ramzan, so basically he woke up early in the morning to take the food and all, because after the sunrise the Muslims cannot take the food during the month of Ramzan. So Bahadur Shah had woken up earlier and taken his food and did his morning chores, and this is the time when he heard a commotion in the gates of the fort. And when he inquired about it, he came to understand that they are the revolutionaries who came all the way from Meerut, asking him, not just asking him, but demanding him to take up the leadership of this revolt. Okay, so reluctantly, Bahadur Shah Zafar had to accept this leadership. He was not in favor of it, but he had no other choice. So Bahadur Shah Zafar was the nominal leader of this revolt in the All India perspective. In Kanpur, this was led by Nana Sahib, the successor of Peshwa Bajirao II. Bajirao II, a very famous Peshwa. You know about him through the film Bajirao Mastani. Okay, so Nana Sahib, he was the successor of Peshwa Bajirao II. Similarly, in Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai led the revolution. In Ara of Bihar, it was led by Kunwar Singh. Understand that in all these places, the leaders were basically forced by the people to attack the British. Okay, for example, Nana Sahib did not want to do that on his own. Rani Lakshmi Bai was also actually pressured by her own subjects to overpower the British. Same goes for Kunwar Singh. Another case is Oudh. Oudh is a very special place as far as Indian history is concerned, because Oudh was annexed into the British Empire using a pretext named as misgovernance. Okay, misgovernance was given as a pretext for annexing Oudh by Lord Dalhousie. Alright, so the people of Oudh were immensely dishappy with British annexation of the Oudh. Also, the ruler of Oudh was very popular among his own subjects. So the people of Oudh actually loved their ruler. Okay, so once this revolution started, the ruler's son Birjis Qadar was made the head of the revolution at Oudh. Birjis Qadar was the son of the ruler. Okay, we will study about what happened in Oudh later, but for now understand that Birjis Qadar led the revolution in Oudh. Many religious leaders and self-styled prophets who preached the destruction of British rule also shown up during this revolution. Okay, many religious leaders, many self-styled prophets. So basically what I am saying is that this particular revolution was not entirely military. Okay, different sections of the society, different sections of the civilians also participated in it. Peasants were there, these religious leaders were there, other artisans were there, craft people were there. Okay, so this was a mass rebellion, undoubtedly. So another example, Shamal. Shamal was the leader in Uttar Pradesh. Gono, a tribal cultivator in Singhbhum of Chota Nagpur, became the leader of the Kold tribals. So all these are the prominent leaders who led the revolutions in various parts of India. Okay, now let's see, how did this revolt start? We know that the first event in this revolt was the Sepoy Mutiny. But why did the Sepoys conduct this mutiny, or what was the cause of this revolution? Okay. Alright. The main cause was some rumors and prophecies. You know about this already, rumors and prophecies. Number one, the cartridge of Enfield rifles. So there spread a rumor that the cartridge of this Enfield rifle, the newly made Enfield rifle, was tainted with cow fat and pig fat. A cow and pig fats were used in the Enfield rifles cartridge, new cartridge. So what is so wrong about cow and pig? Cow is a sacred animal for Hindus and pig is actually a taboo animal for Muslims. So cow fat and pig fat, which means this Enfield rifle is designed in such a way to insult both Hindus and Muslims. Okay, so that was the thought process there. Actually, this was a rumor. This may not have been true at all. But however, once this rumor began to spread, it spread like a wildfire and many people actually believed it. So once this rumor started, no amount of assurance from the British officers could stop it. Okay, I mean, it doesn't matter what the British said, nobody was ready to believe them, and they all believed that British actually used cow fat and pig fat in the Enfield rifle cartridges. Okay, there was another rumor also, which says the British government has hatched a gigantic conspiracy to destroy the caste and religions of Hindus and Muslims. Britishers were Christians, and the major sections of the Indian society were Hindus and Muslims. So most of them thought that British is actually interfering in their religion. They wanted to destroy Hinduism and Islam, and they wanted to spread Christianity. So this was another rumor that was spread. Again, another one said that British has mixed bone dust of cows and pigs into the flour that was sold in the market. Okay, so in the atta that is available in the market, a rumor spread that Britishers has used the bone dust of cows and pigs. So many people stopped buying atta from the market. Just look at this. I mean, this is actually absurd. Okay, but this was the power of rumor. Just like in modern day, we talk about fake news. Correct. We see that Facebook and Twitter have been, initiating policies against fake news, spread of fake news. Same thing happened in 1857. This was basically a rumor which had no concrete basis, but still it had a huge effect on the masses of Indian population. Okay, so fear and suspicion that British wanted the Indians to be Christians. This is another cause of this revolt. So both Hindus and Muslims, also other religious factions in the Indian society, feared that British is actually trying to impose Christianity throughout India. Alright, so this is another cause for the revolt. Then came a prophecy, a very interesting, absurd prophecy, which said that British rule would come to an end at the centenary of Battle of Plassey, which is 23rd June 1857. Okay, you know the famous Battle of Plassey, Sirajuddaula versus Robert Clive, which was fought in Bengal, in which the British actually affirmed their authority. So this battle happened in 1757. Battle of Plassey happened in 1757. So a rumor spread in India regarding a prophecy which says that British will leave India at the centenary anniversary or the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Plassey. Such an absurd thing, but actually people believed in this prophecy. I mean, superstition is very much prevalent even at that time. Okay, so this was another reason. Finally, distribution of chapatis. Chapati is very much associated with the revolt of 1857. Why? Because prior to the revolt of 1857, there has been many instances where we see distribution of chapatis. People will come from nearby villages and hand over some chapatis to the natives of the other village, and they will make more number of chapatis and distribute it to the next village, and so and so. So this was considered as some kind of message, okay, some kind of omen or some kind of message. These chapatis, clear. So all these were the rumors and prophecies that eventually magnified into the revolt of 1857 that broke out in Meerut. All right. Now let's see, why did people believe in these rumors? I mean, right now, if we look at these rumors, these are absurd. No, if in modern day India, in the year 2020, if such a rumor spreads, how many people will actually believe it? I mean, there will be sections of the society who still believes that, but still, educated people will not fall for that much easily. I mean, it is a fact that many of us still fall for WhatsApp pranks, but even then, having said that, it is interesting to note that such baseless rumors eventually caused the 1857 revolt. Okay, so fears and apprehensions and their faiths and convictions. So this was the main issue of this revolution. Everything that British did in India was considered as something against the orthodox traditions of Indians. I mean, Britishers did various things in India. But most of them were some of them were economical, some of them were related to religion, some of them were related to society, some of them were related to press. But in general, people of India thought that everything the British did in India was against their traditions and against their beliefs. Okay, this is actually not true, but this was the common idea at that time. Rumors in 1857 begin to make sense when we see in the context of the policies the British pursued in the late 1820s. So, if this happened as a one-time thing, okay, if the rumor came out of nowhere, then nobody would have believed it. But the British policies of 1820s actually gave a circumstantial position, a circumstantial setup for these rumors to be substantial. Okay, so what were the British policies of 1820s? These included the policies of Governor General Lord William Bentinck. You know about this person, right? Governor General Lord William Bentinck, very famous British personality who have actually, done many good things in India. For example, banning the practice of sati, promoting widow remarriage, These are really great things, right? I mean, there are many bad things the British did in India, but there are some good things also, and these comes as the good things. Okay, so William Bentinck's policies such as banning sati and widow remarriage, promoting widow remarriage, all such reformative activities were considered as an interference into the uh, culture of India. Okay, so Indians thought that these kinds of reforms actually hindered their culture, hindered their belief, hindered their faith, and this will eventually lead into propagation of Western education, propagation of Western ideas and institutions. Okay, so this was considered as a threat by the native Indians. Also, British annexed many kingdoms and principalities such as Jhansi, Satara, etc., etc., and they started administering these territories on their own. Correct. We know about Lord Dalhousie's policy of annexation, right? There are similarly subsidiary alliance systems. So all these policies done by British in the early half of 19th century gave a circumstance where people actually believed that whatever the British did is done against Indians. Okay, so this is when the rumors come in. Now there is a perfect circumstance for anything to happen, and now the rumors are brought in. So people began to believe it because already Britishers are doing these policies which are against native Indian traditions, and so this should also be true. Many people actually believed the rumors because of these circumstances. Okay, also all that they cherished and held was being destroyed and replaced by a system that was more impersonal, alien, and oppressive. So Indianized systems were actually converted into Western systems. Okay, and the top sections of the Indian society also contributed to this. We have to say that as well. Some sections of the Indian society actually admired the Western systems. Okay, but the Orthodox sections, which forms the majority of India, was not in line with this concept. To cap it all, the Christian missionaries were granted permission to come to India and spread Christianity. By the Charter Act of 1833, Christian missionaries were also allowed in India, and they started propagating Christian education by various educational institutions, spreading Christianity, converting people to Christianity. Certain other acts were passed where converts to Christianity will have the right to inherit their ancestral property. Okay, so once these kinds of measures were taken by British, people obviously believed the rumors which said everything the British did is actually done against the Indian beliefs and Indian faith. Okay, so now let's look at one particular area, that is Oudh. What happened in Oudh? In 1851, Governor General Lord Dalhousie described the kingdom of Oudh as a cherry that will drop into our mouth one day. Okay, in 1851, when Dalhousie was following his policy of doctrine of lapse, you know what doctrine of lapse is, right? Annexation with if a king of a particular territory die without having a male heir, then that territory will be annexed to British Kingdom. That is the doctrine of lapse. So Lord Dalhousie, who was the chief architect of this policy, he said in 1851 that Oudh will one day come to British power. 5 years later, in 1856, Oudh was formally annexed with the British Kingdom. Okay, so there is a pretext, there is a pre-story for this. In 1801, subsidiary alliance was imposed on Oudh. What is subsidiary alliance? Subsidiary alliance is something that is the brainchild of Wellesley, and according to this system, a British contingent was placed in the emperor's, in the king's territory. The king was supposed to pay for everything to maintain this British contingent. Then king was supposed to disband his own native army. Also, he was supposed to place a British resident within his court. He cannot engage in any kind of transactions with a foreign power without the permission from British. All these were part of the subsidiary alliance treaty. So Oudh was placed under subsidiary alliance in 1801. Because of this, and because the Nawab has to disband his native army, he had to increasingly depend on the British to maintain the law and order in his kingdom. I mean, his native army was disbanded according to the subsidiary alliance. So he had no choice but to depend on the British army to make sure there are no law and order issues in his kingdom. Okay, but British later felt that we have to annex out. Okay, but mere subsidiary alliance will not do. We actually have to annex out. Why? Because out has fertile soil. Okay, and Britishers were actually trying to expand agriculture, especially indigo and cotton. Indigo and cotton demands in Europe was extremely high at this time, and British was trying to find more and more land to cultivate these crops. And Oudh had fertile soil. So if they can bring Oudh into their power, then they can, go about it in any way that they want. Okay, and Oudh was also ideally located to be developed into a principal market in Upper India. The position of Oudh was very much strategic. Okay, it could be easily developed into a market in North India where people from all over the country can easily approach. So all these made Oudh a very really attractive price for Britain. So finally in 1856 Oudh was taken over, and in 1856 was expected to complete a process of territorial annexation that had begun with the conquest of Bengal almost a century later. So a century earlier. So Britishers, once they established in India, they started annexing each and every territory one by one. So they, by 1856 they have annexed almost every major territory in India. Oudh was one of them that was left out. So now it is high time for the British to annex Oudh also. But they cannot do it using doctrine of lapse, because the policy cannot be placed in Oudh. Oudh had a legal heir. So they used another new theory known as mismanagement or misgovernance. So Oudh was annexed on the pretext of misgovernance by the British. The life was gone out of the body. Okay? So Lord Dalhousie's annexations created disaffection in all the areas and principalities. So people did not like British annexing Oudh. Okay, people of Oudh were actually very much loyal to their own king. Oudh was ruled by Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. Okay, and once Britishers annexed Oudh, Wajid Ali Shah was dethroned and exiled into Calcutta. Fine. Britishers thought that Wajid Ali Shah was not that much popular with the people. I mean, most of the rulers were used to impose heavy taxes on people, okay, or treat the people oppressively, etc., etc. So Britishers thought Wajid Ali Shah was also such a kind of person, but actually it was the reverse. Wajid Ali Shah was extremely popular among the people, and the people of Oudh very much respected, and they were very much loyal to Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. Okay, so we can look into two famous quotes from that time. The life has gone out of the body, and the body of this town has been left lifeless. There was no street or market and house which did not wail out the cry of agony in separation of Janai Alam. So this paragraph, this passage is actually referring to dethroning Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. So somebody who wrote this passage, he actually says that Wajid Ali Shah going out of Oudh is just like the life going out of the body. Another passage. One folk song bemoaned that the honorable British came and took the country. Angrez Bahadurain Mulklain Lino. Okay, so these kinds of poetry and other passages that we obtained from around this time suggest to the fact that Nawab Wajid Ali Shah was extremely popular among his own subjects, and the people of Oudh was actually against annexation of Oudh to Britain. Okay, so once the annexation was completed, naturally everything that was part of the Oudh culture was destroyed. Okay, I mean if there is a court, if the king is in the court, then that court will be patronizing artists, musicians, other craft persons, etc., etc., right? But once this was annexed, all these practices was stopped, and because of that many people lost their livelihood. Okay, handloom industry fell, artisans lost their job, musicians lost their job. Okay, so the entire culture of the Oudh court was destroyed. You can see how the British annexed one by one each and every territory all over the country. look at this map. All that is shown in the orange color is basically the territory which was controlled by British in 1857, by the time of 1857. Okay, so subsidiary alliance, which I have already mentioned earlier, the points are given here. You can read them once I upload the PDF in my Telegram channel. Okay, all the points I have already mentioned regarding subsidiary alliance. Be very careful and study it well. Now, the Firangi Raj and the end of the world. So, one second, sir. Okay, Oudh came to be identified as Firangi Raj with the end of the world. Okay, once again. People of Oudh thought that British rule will be equal to end of world. Firangi Raj means British rule, foreign rule. Firangi means foreigners. So Firangi Raj means foreign rule. People of Oudh began to consider that British rule is going to be the end of the world. Why? Because all their cultures, all their traditions, all their beliefs and faiths, etc., are going to decline. Okay, so the revolt became an expression of popular resistance to alien order. So these are the setups that eventually led to 1857 revolt. Once the revolt started in Meerut, it eventually spread almost all across the northern India. Why? Because in each and every territory in the northern India, people had their own causes for the revolt. Okay, the Chansi Rani had her causes, the Tandya Tope had his own issues, people of Oudh had their own issues. So each and every territory had their own problems and issues against the British. So this was the setup which was utilized in 1857 revolt. So before the coming of the British, the Talukdars maintained armed retainers but built forts, etc. Okay, before the arrival of British, the native Indian rulers ruled their princely kingdoms, but under them there were other officers such as Zamindars, Talukdars, etc. And Talukdars were actually allowed to maintain a small army and also to build forts. Okay, but once British came in, they confiscated all this land. They forced the Talukdars to destroy all their forts, etc. British land revenue policy further undermined the position of the Talukdars. Okay, in 1856, a very famous land revenue policy was introduced by British. This came to be known as summary settlement. According to this settlement, it was assumed that Talukdars were interlopers with no permanent stakes in the land. Okay, according to this settlement, Britishers considered Talukdars as people who achieved this land using force and fraud measures. So basically, they obtained these lands using fraudulent measures, and so they do not have any legal claim over this land. So this is known as summary settlement, which took place in 1856. Okay. Also, British land revenue officers believed that by removing Talukdars, they would be able to settle the land with the actual owners of the soil and thus reduce the level of exploitation on the peasant. Okay, so they thought that Talukdars and Zamindars are all middlemen. Okay, so once you remove them, you can actually arrive at settlements directly with the people, with the farmers, with the cultivators. Okay, and if they do that, then these cultivators will no longer be oppressed. Earlier, these Zamindars will collect the tax together and give it to the British. So Zamindars can collect whatever they want. So they can actually oppress people and force them to give a higher amount of tax. And they can pay only a lesser amount to British. So middlemen were causing all the issues. Britishers thought that by eliminating these middlemen, they can actually appeal to the people and they can actually stop the exploitation that was done by these middlemen onto the Indian society. This was again wrong. Why? Because not everybody were oppressors. That is the reason. Some of them were lenient, some of them were indeed cruel, but many were actually lenient and people actually liked them. Okay, so the disposition of Talukdars meant the breakdown of an entire social order. Talukdars were central to that particular society. So dispossessing him would mean that the entire social order that is revolving the Talukdar in the village setup will break down. Okay. Hello Prabha, welcome. Okay, so the entire social setup will break down. In the pre-British times, Talukdars were oppressors. But many times they often appeared as generous fatherly figures. I mean, of course, Talukdars were actually oppressors. They used to charge heavy taxes on the people, and they used to forcibly collect it, etc., etc. But when famines occur, or when the peasants want some kind of additional help, Talukdars will be there to help them also. They used to grant them extra payment, or they used to grant them whatever they want in the time of distress. So, although they were oppressors, they were also very lenient and very fatherly like at certain points of time. This was not how British behaved. For British, it was everything, everything was law, everything was money. They were not ready to behave like fatherly figures or anything. They oppressed people clearly without any kind of concessions or without any kind of sensibilities. So many of these Talukdars were loyal to the Nawab of Oudh, and they joined Begum Hazrat Mahal, the wife of Nawab, in Lucknow to fight against the British. So because of these characters, the character of the Nawab, Wajid Ali Shah, who was extremely famous, extremely popular, Talukdars also joined hands with the Nawab. But once the Nawab was deported to Kolkata, what happened? These Talukdars actually helped Nawab's wife, Begum Hazrat Mahal, to rise against Britain in Lucknow. Okay, so Begum Hazrat Mahal is the person who revolted against British in Lucknow. Another point for glimpse. So the grievances of peasants were carried over into sepoy lines, since a vast majority of these sepoys were recruited from villages of Oudh. Okay, so the mutiny began in the sepoy regiment in Meerut, but it became a mass rebellion. It spread into civilians also. Why? Because sepoys were recruited from among the civilians. The family of the sepoys were among the civilians. So when they converse with the family members also will get an idea of how the sepoys are being treated. Similarly, all the how the British treat these civilians, they will pass the information to the sepoys. So mutually they knew about everything that was happening both in military ranks as well as in the civilian section. Clear? So once this mutiny began, it immediately became a mass rebellion because there was common resentment against the British Raj. In the 1820s, the British officers were actually very much friendly with the sepoys. I mean, they used to spend their leisure times together. They used to go for hunting together. Okay, it was a very friendly attitude that the British kept in the 1820s with the Indian sepoys. But around 1840s, this also started changing. Britishers began to consider Indians as inferior people. They began to feel that they are superior to the Indian people. Okay, they started to behave in a racist fashion. And once this happened, trust was replaced by suspicion. Earlier, the friendly relations between sepoys and the British officers eventually broke, and the trust the Indians had on the British eventually was replaced by suspicion. Okay, so the link between the sepoys and the rural world had an important implication on the revolt of 1857. Because the sepoys were recruited from the villages of India, both the civilians and the sepoys had common concerns. Okay, so when they got a chance to rise against the British, they all came together and they rose into a mass rebellion. Now, what the rebels wanted? Okay, I mean, the revolt happened. We know the cause of the revolt, but what was the outcome of it? Or, I mean, what was the expectations of this revolt? What did the common man of India want as a result of this revolt? Okay, so the British records their own trials and tribulations as well as their heroism. We do not know much about what the people actually wanted. Why? Because British officers kept proper records, but Indians didn't. Okay, most of the participants of the the 1857 revolt were actually civilians, the common man of India. Most of them were illiterate. They did not know to write or read. Okay, so because of this fact, we do not have adequate materials or adequate sources to understand the people's perspective or people's expectations from this revolt. Based on the British records, we know certain small things, but we have to understand that British records are always biased towards Britain. Okay, so we will only get a idea of the revolt from British perspective, not the Indian perspective. So Britishers dismissed these rebels as a bunch of ungrateful and barbaric people. They considered Indian people as inferior, racist, they were very much racist, and they did not, I mean, they were not ready to consider Indians as equal and considered them as uncivilized, ungrateful, and barbaric people. Repression of the rebels also meant silencing their voice. They were not simply repressed, but they were also silenced. Okay, the rebels were silenced, which means what? Their publications or their, leaflets, pamphlets, etc., were not allowed to be circulated. In general, the idea of rebels were totally suppressed by Britain. Most of them were shipboys and ordinary people who were not literate. Already explained this point. We do not have much to throw light into the perspective of the rebels. Why? Because most of them were illiterate and they did not keep adequate resources or materials for future use. While these sources reveal the mindset of officials, they tell us very little about the rebels' mindset. So we have to put our faith in the British records a lot to understand what happened around this time. Problem is that we cannot take everything for granted because obviously almost all of these records are very much biased to the British favor. Okay, so now from where do we get what the rebels expected out of this? I mean, we have some sources, okay, although we do not have any proper records or literary works, we still have certain small sources. For example, the very famous memos or say very famous proclamations that were made by these leaders. Okay, so similarly, small leaf pamphlets that were passed between the revolutionaries at that time. We have some records, a few records, not enough, but at least we get to know an idea of what the rebels wanted. The vision of unity. The rebel proclamations in 1857 appealed to all sections of the population, irrespective of caste and creed, irrespective of Hinduism or Islam or any other religion. They appealed to everyone. The leaders appealed to everyone. Many were issued by Muslim princes or in their names, but even these took care of the sentiments of Hindus. So even if the proclamation is made by a Muslim ruler or or by somebody who is in correspondence with the Muslim leader, still even these proclamations took value to the sentiments of Hindus. Vice versa also. Those proclamations which were done by Hindus were actually respecting the sentiments of Islam as well. So we had absolute religious unity during the time of 1857 revolt. Okay, so this was one of the peak points which we will never see again later. Understand that the only time we see such unity in the future is around non-cooperation movement in 1920s. Since then, we see that everything that happened in Indian history was very much communal in nature. But here, back in 1857, although there were Hindus as well as Muslims coexisting in Indian society, the element of communalism was not very much present. So both Hindus and the Muslims had equally to lose or gain from this revolt. Ishtahars harked back to the pre-British Hindu-Muslim past and glorified the coexistence of different communities under the Mughal Empire. So what is this Ishtahars? Ishtahars means proclamations. Okay, Ishtahars means proclamations. So understand that these proclamations which were conducted by Hindus as well as Muslims, these actually glorified an era before the arrival of British, that is the Mughal period, when both Hindus and Muslims coexisted peacefully. So from yesterday I told you, while I talked to you about the Mughal chapter, I told you Mughals were extremely popular. Why? Because although they were Islamic rulers, they took into consideration the different factions in the Indian society and they did respect the religious practices of other sections also. They did not impose Sharia forcefully on other sections of the society. Some rulers even withdrew jizya. I mean, Aurangzeb brought it back, but immediately it was withdrawn by the next ruler. Okay, so because of all these things, the Mughal Empire were extremely popular among Indians, not just Muslims, even Hindus liked the Mughals. Okay, so because of all these reasons, most of the proclamations, asked the rebels to take pride from the pre-British era, that is the Mughal era. Okay. Now, against the symbols of oppression. So the proclamations completely rejected everything associated with British rule or the Firangi Raj. So the people who led this revolt, they wanted to reject everything that was British. People are not supposed to go into British educational institutions. People are not supposed to obey any rules or regulations set by Britain. Any law that is passed by Britain can be defied. Okay, so we see that nothing, any product that was put forth by British Raj was not accepted by Indians. They condemned the British for the annexations they had carried out and the treaties that they had broken. No need to explain this, you already know this is a self-explanatory point. British land revenue settlements had dispossessed landholders, both big and small, and foreign commerce had driven artisans and weavers to ruin. So once the British annexed all these territories, what happened? Eventually they set up their own methods of administration, their own methods of settling land revenue, etc., etc. This alienated a lot of people from their own motherland. Also, the foreign trade policy of Britain, in which India was basically considered as a drain. India was considered as a supplier of raw material and as a as a market where British can dump their finished goods. Okay, so this trading policy or this economic policy of British was also heavily condemned by the people of India. Why? Because this started to affect the domestic trade very much negatively. The local artisans, the local handlooms all declined around this time. So the people started resenting against the British rule. So the people were urged to come together and fight to save their livelihood, their faith, their honor, and their identity, and a fight for the greater public good. So this is how the leaders appeal to the people. Britishers are taking away everything. They are hindering your culture, they are hindering your tradition, they are hindering your religion, your faith, your belief. Now it's time we should all unite and we should oppose and protest against the British. We should unite together in a revolution. Okay, so this is the appeal to the Indian masses. This widened into an attack on all those who were seen as allies of the British or the local oppressors. So although the main targets were the British, eventually the scope widened and anybody who has helped the Britain in any way was considered as a target as well. So moneylenders, etc., etc. comes here. So this is how the scope of this revolution broadens. Okay, now the search for alternative power. Rebels tried to establish some kind of structure of authority and administration. I mean, once they revolted in many places, for a very short period of time, rebels were able to conquer certain territories. For example, Delhi was under the rebel control for a very short time. I mean, maybe a few months. But even then, even in those few period of time, rebels actually set up some alternative methods of authority. They set up their own government, their own method of administration. They want to show that the rebel leadership want to restore the pre-British world of 18th century. This is what they try to see. I mean, they try to picturize themselves as. They wanted the people to think that the rebel leaders are actually trying to bring India back into the pre-British era. That is the era of Mughals, when the Hindus and the Muslims coexisted peacefully, when Indian economy was flourishing, when artisans and craft people had full-time job, when Indian handloom industry was extremely famous in the world. They wanted to take the Indian society back to the pre-British times. Okay, the leaders went back to the culture of the court. What is the culture of the court? Culture of the court means the king being the central piece, patronizing various kinds of art and craft works, patronizing musicians, patronizing various other people. This is the culture of the court. They wanted to take 1857 back to pre-British times when the culture of the court was flourishing. The rebels harked back to the 18th century Mughal world, a world that became a symbol of all that had been lost. So the Mughal era was glorified during the period of 1857, and rightfully so, because almost all the Indians accepted Mughals as their rulers, because Mughals, although they were actually, Babur was a foreigner, most of the other Mughal rulers were born and brought up in India only. So it was an Indian dynasty in essence, and people actually admired them. All sections of the society had faith and watched Mughal emperor as a prominent figure. They admired them. All right. Now let's see how did the British react. So now we know how the revolt started. What are the immediate causes? We looked into who were the Indian revolutionaries who led the revolt in various areas. We saw why the people revolted. How did the civilians join the Sepoy mutiny? What were the concerns? What were the causes, etc., etc. Now let's see how did the British react. British went for extreme repression. Okay, I mean initially they had to face lots and lots of setbacks. Many Europeans were killed by the Indian revolutionaries. Okay, so British had to face initial setbacks, but very soon they regrouped together and started repressing the revolutionaries. British started this by passing a series of laws, okay, which will help them to quell this insurgency. In the northern India, martial law was placed everywhere. Martial law means what? Military rule. So military had full authority, full power to take any action against these rebels. Even ordinary British people were given the power to try and punish Indians suspected of rebellion. Okay, so if you are a person from Britain, you have the authority to punish any Indian or any rebel as you like. Okay, you can take law into your own hands. That kind of power was given to all the British people in northern India. So they were assigned with the task of suppressing this revolt. So Britishers understood that although the revolt is happening in various parts of India, the focal point is actually Delhi. Delhi is the symbol of power for India. Why? Because it is the Mughal throne. Delhi is the Mughal throne. And Mughals, this is very much symbolic to Indians. So if you capture Delhi, this will give a severe blow to the confidence of Indians in other parts of the country. So Britishers understood this point and they attacked Delhi. Okay, and in this attack, there were very huge losses in both sides. When Britishers brought in more and more army, rebels brought in more and more rebels. So the fighting continued for a long time and there were heavy casualties in both sides, but eventually Britishers won. Why? Because Britishers were very well planned, they had superior arms, etc., etc. Rebels were poorly coordinated. They were fighting with very basic arms and ammunitions which were not competent to fight against superior arms the Britishers had. Britishers had good generals such as Outram, Colin Campbell, etc., etc., who used to lead them to successes. In India's case, that was not the case. The generalship, based on the efficiency of being a general, British officers were far better than Indians. Okay, so all these led to the failure of Indian revolutionaries. So fighting ended with losses in both sides. In the countryside and the people around the area of Delhi also joined this revolt, but eventually they were all suppressed. Okay, so as soon as they began to start their counter insurgency operations, the British realized that they were not dealing with a mere mutiny but an uprising that was huge and popular. So once the common man also joined this revolution, also joined this war against Britain, Britishers understood that this is not just a Sepoy mutiny, this is not just a thing that happened in the army area of Meerut, but this is actually a all India revolution and this is much more than they thought. Okay, so Britishers started to use varying tactics in order to quench this revolution, starting with military power. Military was the major medium used by the British to stop this insurgency. Second one was trying to divide the rebels one against another. Okay, they tried to break up the unity between the rebels by promising some kind of favors, some kind of salary, etc., etc. None of this worked. Okay, rebels stood united and they faced the British together, but eventually they lost. You can see some of the important areas of 1857 revolt in this map. If you look at this, you can see how the rebels were brought from various parts of the country into Delhi also. Okay, Delhi is shown here and rebels are coming from all over the country to Delhi, even from the northwestern sections. Okay, so Delhi was the focal point of this revolution. Good evening, Abhijit, welcome. Images of the revolt. So We have a lot of knowledge about this revolt from many sources, predominantly the British records. But just like the British records, we also come across various imagery sources, which means various paintings. Okay, now we are going to look at each of them. So what are the sources? Few rebel proclamations and notifications, as also some letters and that the rebel leaders wrote. Apart from basic British records, we have some kind of rebel proclamations and notifications which were actually printed in the paper. Similarly, some letters that the rebels used to write to British as well as to their comrades in the battle. Okay, so these were all prominent sources for studying about 1857 revolt. But still, the most prominent source is the accounts left by Britain. There were innumerable memos, innumerable notes, assessments of situations, and reports that were produced by British officers in order to quench this revolution. So this is the prominent source. Stories of revolt that were published in British newspapers and magazines. Just like in India, where mass media was used to spread this revolution, in the British press also this was noted. This revolution was immensely denounced in Britain. The public of Britain eventually turned against Indians and they wanted to have revenge. I mean, I already told you, when 1857 revolt started, many Europeans were killed. Okay, and Britishers wanted revenge. Once the British common man came to know that many of their people were killed by these revolutionaries, they also started considering these revolutionaries as barbarics and they wanted to have revenge. Okay, so pictorial images produced by British and Indians also played a huge role in spreading this revolution. We will look into these paintings, okay, very famous paintings which actually provoke the sentiments of common man in that time, both from British part as well as India's part. Okay, let's look at some such images. Number one is the relief of Lucknow. Okay, welcome Abhishek. Okay, first one is the relief of Lucknow. Let me just tell you, we have the quiz at 5:30. I request all of you to be ready with the Unacademy learning app. Today's quiz is based on modern India, 50 questions. I will start the quiz exactly at 5:30 p.m. Alright, so celebrating the saviors. So most of the British paintings and pictures from around this time were used to commemorate the British heroes who saved the English from the oppressing rebels. Okay, I mean, when the British people faced initial setback, many superior officers were sent in to save the Europeans, and we have many heroic stories regarding Outram, Campbell, Hugh Groves, etc., who actually defeated the Indian counterparts. Okay, so these people were considered as heroes in Britain. So many paintings were actually made to glorify their victories. Fine. Another painting known as Relief of Lucknow, which was painted by Thomas Jones Barker in 1859, is very much important to us. Why? I will show you the painting. At that time you will understand. But let's look at some important features before seeing that painting. Okay. So this painting is related to what happened in Lucknow. In Lucknow, Henry Lawrence, who was the commissioner of Lucknow, when the rebels attacked Lucknow, he collected all the Christian population and took refuge in the heavily fortified residency. Okay, he wanted to save all the Christians in that area. So he collected all the Christians who were living in Lucknow region, and they were all together accommodated in the heavily fortified residency. Okay, but on the process, Lawrence was killed. Henry Lawrence was killed. But the command was taken over by Colonel Inglis. Okay, command of this residency was taken over by Colonel Inglis, and he was able to save all these people who were inside the heavily fortified residency. On 25th September, Outram and Henry Havelock arrived at the scene, and they broke through the ranks of these rebels, and they supplied Inglis with more and more ammunitions and more resources, and eventually finally Britishers succeeded in saving everybody who was trapped inside this particular residence. Okay, all the rebels were eventually thwarted, eventually destroyed, and everyone was saved. So this event was painted by Thomas Jones Barker. Okay, the fall of Lucknow followed by the saving of Lucknow by Colonel Outram and Henry Havelock. Okay, Colin Campbell, another very famous British general. He was the new commander of British forces in India, and he came with his forces and rescued the besieged British garrison. So basically these three are the heroes here: James Outram, Henry Havelock and Colin Campbell. So Thomas Jones Barker painted all of them. In the British accounts, the siege of Lucknow became a story of survival, heroic resistance and ultimate triumph of British power. Correct, right? This is obvious. So these three people are now British heroes. They have saved other Europeans. Okay, so now they are painted as heroes in the British journals. Let's look at that image here. Okay, this is the very famous image that I am talking about. The relief of Lucknow. Okay, painted by Thomas Jones Barker in 1859. As you can see, the fort is seen in the background here. Okay, and you can see the British generals here in the center of this figure who have succeeded in this war. And you can see many of the rebels who are, in a miserable condition, who have been killed and very much brutally injured. Okay, all these rebels have lost and they are very brutally injured, etc., etc. So this is the painting. The center figure being the heroes of Britain: Colin Campbell, James Outram and Henry Havelock. Okay, so these kinds of paintings actually appeal to the emotions of British people. So these generals became heroes overnight. We have more paintings to look at. Okay, so another painting that we are going to look at is known as In Memoriam. Okay, but before that, before we are going to look into that painting, let's study about the condition of women in general. So what was the condition of English women in India in 1857? Okay, so there were many newspaper reports that have power to take over the public imagination. There were many reports in Britain, newspaper reports, which said that the barbarians or the rebels actually dishonored the English women. They actually did bad things to them, massacred them, etc., etc. So these kinds of reports actually started outraging the British public. Tales of violence against women and children began to spread through the British media. So once the British common man came to know about this, there was huge demand in Britain to have revenge and retribution. They did this to us, our women and our children, now the Indians has to pay. This was the kind of attitude that developed in Britain at that time, the attitude or the want of revenge and retribution. This is the time when Joseph Noel Paton paints the very famous picture In Memoriam. Okay, he paints this actually in 1859, which is 2 years later the revolt. But this picture shows English women and children huddled in a circle, looking helpless and innocent, seemingly waiting for the inevitable. That is the dishonor, violence and finally death. So this painting basically paints the helpless condition of British women and children who were waiting for the inevitable. That is dishonor, violence and death. Okay, I mean these things are going to happen to them and they are helpless and they are sitting there. This is the painting In Memoriam. Why is this painting so important? Because this is not just about a painting or a story. In Memoriam does not show gory violence, but it only suggests it. In that, I will show you the painting. Just wait, I will show you the painting. In that painting, you will see that there is no suggestion of violence. There are no barbarians with swords in their hand, attacking the women or anything. Okay, but the facial expressions of these women, the body language of the children, all suggest that they are very much afraid and are helpless, and they are going to die very soon. Okay, so such kind of images will have a huge impact on the viewer. Okay, so this was the suggestion. It only suggests violence. It stirs up the spectator's imagination and seeks to provoke anger and fury. So when the spectator sees it, women and children being helpless and in a very, very fearful situation, obviously the viewer can imagine what is going to happen. So each and every viewer can imagine in his own ways. This is how the artist painted that picture. That is why it is very important. Rather than showing it bluntly, the artist left it to the imagination of the people to fill up the story, fill in the blanks. Fine. It represents the rebels as a violent and brutish people, even though they remain invisible in the picture. So rather than showing the rebels as barbaric or as murderous people, or the condition, the emotions set in this picture indirectly tells the same. Okay, indirectly tells that these rebels were barbarians. So in the background, you can see the British forces coming to the rescue also. That is also shown. So by painting this condition of the women, Joseph Noel Paton has achieved multiple goals. One is to provoke the imagination of the spectator. Second one, indirectly saying that the Indian people are barbaric and uncivilized. Third, British officers are coming to rescue. So Britishers are painted as a saving angels. Okay, so all these were made through this particular painting. You can see the painting now. This is the in memoriam painting which was done by Joseph Noel Paton. Good evening, Rohit. Welcome. Okay, look at this. The British women are in here. You can see them. There are children also shown here. All of them are huddled together in the center of the picture, afraid. There is fear shown in all of their faces. Okay, and you can see the British people in the background who have come to save them. Okay, in the background you can see the British people also. Okay, so this is the very famous painting which actually provoked the mind of any spectator. Okay, so all these paintings also led to the emergence of a thought process in Britain which barely states that Indian people should suffer. Okay, British should take revenge on Indians. So there is another painting also. Okay, the last painting, the third painting, another set of sketches and paintings. We see women in different light. So now in the first two paintings, women are in the first painting, women are actually presented as helpless, about to die, about to lose their honor, etc., etc. But there is another painting which shows women as heroic figures defending themselves against these rebels. This is there is a painting in which Miss Wheeler stands firmly at the center, defending her honor, single-handedly killing the attacking rebels. Okay, so woman's struggle to save her honor and her life, in fact, is represented as having a deeper religious connotation. It is the battle to save the honor of Christianity. Okay, so basically, a woman trying to protect her honor is also equalized or compared with saving the honor of Christianity in this painting. Okay, now let's see that painting. This one is it. Okay, so the central figure here is Miss Wheeler. Okay, the woman's name is Miss Wheeler, and she is standing there killing the rebels who are trying to attack her and trying to dishonor her. And you can also see a book that is lying down on the ground here. This book is basically Bible. Okay, so basically this picture says that women women are defending themselves, and they are not only protecting their own honor, but they are also protecting the honor of Christianity. Alright, so this is the Miss Wheeler painting that which is another very much popular painting around the 1857 era. Coming to next section, vengeance and distribution. So all these paintings, all these reports, all these journals, etc. provoke the thought process of Indians. Now what next? Thought process of British people. So what is next? Retribution, vengeance. You have to get back. Indians has to suffer. Okay, so there was a wave of anger and shock that spread in Britain, and they demanded retribution. It was as if justice demanded that challenge to British honor must be punished ruthlessly. British felt that they had to demonstrate this invincibility. Okay, they wanted to make sure that nobody in the future will ever question their power. For all this purpose, they punished Indians very brutally and very cruelly. There is another beautiful image that is shown here, where an allegorical female figure of justice with a sword in one hand and a shield in the other hand, in a very aggressive posture, trampling sepoys under her feet, while a mass of Indian women with children covering with fear. Okay, so this is another figure that was very popular at that time. In here you can see a woman, a British woman basically. She is having a sword in one hand and a shield in another hand. She is actually waging war against the Indians. And there are many sepoys, Indian sepoys, under her feet. Okay, and there are some women and children, Indian women and children at the background, very afraid and very frightened of what is going on. Their husbands and brothers and fathers are being killed by the British. Okay, so such images were also very popular at that time, during the time of 1857. Innumerable other pictures and cartoons in the British press that sanctioned brutal repression and violent reprisal. So basically, once the news of 1857 spread in England, everybody wanted revenge. Every British person wanted to have retribution. Okay, in one way or another, they demanded this. Performance of terror. So the urge for vengeance and retribution was expressed in brutal way which the rebels were executed. So once this revolt was suppressed, there are many possible future outcomes. Okay, number one, you can actually pardon the people and get back to peace. Number two, even if you are executing some people, you can execute it by certain standard procedures that were prevalent. Even now, if government gives if the court gives capital punishment to somebody, that person will be hanged to death. That is how you kill him. You cannot just stab him all around. No, that is not the legal way of doing it. Okay, but in order to make sure the vengeance and retribution is properly done, Britishers chose very inhuman ways to execute the Indian rebels. Okay, so Indian rebels were actually blown from guns or hanged from gallows. I mean, they were actually put in the artillery guns and they were blown away. They were shattered into pieces. Okay, so such very inhuman measures were taken by British to conquer their thirst of vengeance. Images of these executions were widely circulated through popular journals. They not only did this, but they also circulated this image. You can see one popular image here where a lion is actually attacking a tiger. So Indians are represented by tigers. India is known as a land of tigers. Okay, so tiger is a representation of India and lion is the representation of Britain. And here in this image, the lion is actually attacking a Bengal tiger, which means the Britishers are taking vengeance into the Indians. Okay, you can see another image here where the Indian people are basically blown using guns. I will enlarge this for you. 1 second, sorry. Let me just bring that back. Yeah, you can see this image here. See, the Indian people are actually put into these artillery guns and it is blown away. So the people became, shattered all over the place. This was how brutally the Britishers executed Indians to have vengeance. Similarly, the Indians are also hanged in gallows, just like this. Okay, you can see the image here. Many people are hanged to death. So basically, Britishers wanted revenge and they conducted it in various inhuman ways. Okay, no time for clemency. Those British people who, propagated some kind of peace or who tried to avoid worsening of the situation were actually mocked. All right. Yeah, 1 second. One second, guys. Is it now? Is the network okay now? Are you getting output? Yeah. Okay, fine. All right. So moving on. No time for clemency. Okay. So those British people who actually tried to advocate some kind of peace, they were actually mocked by the British press. Okay. So the pleas for moderation were ridiculed. For example, the Governor General of Britain at that time, Lord Canning, okay, he declared that a gesture of leniency and a show of mercy would help in winning back the loyalties of the Sepoys. Okay, he said that we have to show some kind of leniency and some kind of mercy so that you can win back the loyalty of Indian Sepoys. When he said that, people began to mock him. Okay, the British press actually took it on him. You can see a very famous cartoon here, which is basically showing Canning as a looming father figure with his protective hands over the head of a shipboy, who still holds an unsheathed sword in one hand and dagger in the other, both dripping with blood. Look at this image. Okay, in this you can see Lord Canning here, one hand placed over the head of a shipboy, and this shipboy has a sword in one hand and a gun in another hand. Both of them are, dripping with blood. What does this mean? This means that the shipboy has actually, attacked and killed many people, many Europeans, and now Canning is actually trying to be a fatherly figure to him. So this is a political satire cartoon, say from 1885, from the beginning of Indian National Congress. Okay, and then eventually it took more and more pace, and you know what happened. The story is very much popular. Okay, but you have to understand that even the national movement that happened in the 20th century drew its inspiration from the events of 1857. Okay, they had the 1857 revolt was very much inspirational for our future nationalists. For example, many nationalists praised the glory of the revolutionaries at that time. Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, Nana Sahib, Tandia Top. Okay, these people were praised by national leaders. Celebrated as the first war of independence in which all sections of the people of India came together against the imperial rule. 1857 revolt is known as the first war of Indian independence. Okay, V.D. Savarkar, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar called 1857 revolt as the first war of Indian independence. But this is a very curious topic. Many people do not agree with that because of various reasons that I will tell you later. But R.C. Majumdar, another historian, he calls this as neither first nor national nor a war of independence. Okay, R.C. Majumdar says that 1857 revolt is neither the first nor a national nor a war of independence. Okay, so this is considered as a more accepted quote. So you can quote these kinds of sayings in your answer sheet for mains, which will earn you better marks. Okay, so there are various views regarding what happened in 1857 revolt. You can read that in your Modern India textbook, Biban Chandra Sir's textbook. Do look into that, very important. We will study that in a later chapter. Okay, so the leaders of the revolt were presented as heroic figures, just like British people presented Campbell, Outram, Havelock, etc. as their heroes. For Indians, heroes were Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, Tandia Top, Nana Sahib, etc. etc. Similarly, heroic poems were written about the valor of the queen, who with a sword in one hand and the reins of her horse in other hand fought for the freedom of her motherland. So, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi. Okay, Jhansi Rani was presented as a very huge figure. Many poems were written on her. Even now we have to study, in our school classes, we study about Jhansi Ki Rani, right? Jhansi Ki Rani is one of the chapters in our elementary school classes. Right? Even now it is there. So these kinds of images, the revolutionaries, were actually glorified in India also. Okay, so lines of Subhadra Kumari Chauhan, Khoob Lari Mardani, wo tu Jhansi wali Rani hai. That is, like a man she fought, she was the Rani of Jhansi. A bit stereotypical, but still, these are the ways used by, famous poets, artists, etc., etc., to glorify the revolutionaries who fought on behalf of India. Okay, so Indians also, just like British, Indians also used art and literature and other kinds of medium to popularize their own national heroes. Fine. So these images did not reflect the emotions and feelings of the times in which they were produced. They were they also shaped sensibilities. You have to understand that all these images were basically painted for the emotions of that particular time. Okay, but it was not just about emotions. They were also shaped based on some sensibilities. These images tells us a lot of things. It is not just a blunt abstract image. A lot of social realities can be studied from all these artistic works. You can see a very famous movie poster that came later, okay, about Rani Lakshmi Bai. See, the Rani is shown in a horse with one hand holding a sword. Very recently, another movie came up, Manikarnika. You might have seen it. Manikarnika, in that movie, again, Rani Lakshmi Bai is very portrayed as a very, valor, with very much valor, very much courage, very much strength, etc., etc. Okay, Kangana Ranaut movie, you might have seen it. So these kinds of inspirational movies, inspirational poems, inspirational images, etc., etc., were both made by both the sides, English as well as Indians, to inspire, people of their respective countries. So basically, the chapter has come to an end. In this chapter, in the 12th standard chapter, the aim of this chapter is basically to give you an idea of what happened in 1857 revolt, what were the basic causes, and more than that, how did the British and Indians responded to 1857 revolt. Okay, this chapter does not give you enough to prepare for UPSC prelims, but this gives you a background to write mains questions very beautifully, because this chapter throws a lot of light into how the British common man and how the Indian common man viewed and participated in this revolution. Okay, that is the basic understanding that you have to take away from this. Now supplement this information along with Spectrum textbook of modern India or the Bipin Chandra sir's history of modern India. Okay, supplement this chapter with that and you will get the whole idea. Some modern India was also taken in an early session by me, that is the class 8 NCERT textbook. You can go back and watch those YouTube lessons as well to have a complete picture of the Indian national movement and what happened in 1857 revolt. Okay, so that is it. We have come to an end of this particular session. Let me again just tell you, please understand that there are many free materials in Unacademy. You can watch all of them. But in order to unlock these free materials, you have to provide an educator code. Okay, so you can provide my educator code MSRW1 and you can actually unlock all the free stuffs. I have already taken a class known as 1857 Revolt, the revolution of 1857 in the Unacademy app classes. You can go back and watch it. It is a free class. Okay, similarly disintegration of Mughals and philosophical schools of India. Okay, all these sessions were taken about a couple of months back, still available, still free. So make sure to watch them. It will be very much useful. Okay, it gives you a comprehensive coverage of all these topics. So that is it regarding today's theory session. Now let's join the quiz session. Okay, the quiz code is actually not this. Quiz code is, 1 second guys, let me just take the new code. Today's quiz code basically is, 1 second. It is not this one. One second. 917504. So here the quiz is regarding modern India, and how to join this quiz is shown in this PowerPoint presentation. Please make sure to join. I will start the quiz in like 2 minutes. Okay. Modern India quiz. Let me just set this up. 1 second. I will start in 2 minutes. Please join the quiz using Unacademy Learning app. Alright. Yeah, so far 3 people have joined. I request others to join as well. Okay. Alright, Saubhagya. Thank you, Seema. Okay. So I will start in 1 minute, okay? I will start the quiz at 5:37. 1 minute more to join. Please open your Unacademy Learning app, which you have downloaded from Google Play or App Store, and then click on the plus button from the menu. Then click the test tab below the screen. Click the join quiz button and enter the quiz code 917504. 50 questions on modern India, 40 seconds each. Okay, once the quiz starts, it goes on till the end of 50 questions. Please understand that only the participants who you participate in this quiz using the Unacademy learning app will get the detailed written answer key at the end of this session. Okay, the answer key is provided in the written format within the app itself. So please make sure to participate in this quiz using the app itself, not via YouTube. In YouTube screen, it won't be that much visible. The font is very small. I cannot help it. Okay, so please join the quiz using Unacademy learning app. Fine. You can also join the quiz in between if you want. It is also a possibility. So please be ready. Okay. So I am going to start the quiz now. 4 people have so far joined. So the first question is on the board. Which of the following acts is also known as the Act of Good Government in India? Which of the following acts is also known as Act of Good Government in India? Option A, Government of India Act of 1858. B, Pitt's India Act of 1784. C, Charter Act of 1833. And D, Indian Independence Act of 1947. Choose the correct answer. Is there any streaming issues now? Am I audible? Yeah, I think so. Okay, fine. So correct answer to that question, 18 Act of 1857, 58. Okay. Question number 2. Consider the following statements. The Factories Act 1881 was passed with a view to fix the wages of industrial workers and to allow the workers to form trade unions. 2. M. Lokhande was a pioneer in organizing the labor movement in India. Which of the above statements is or are correct? All the viewers who are participating in this quiz using the YouTube, kindly switch over to Unacademy learning app and participate. Okay? Yeah, correct answer. Recently we're getting it right. Third question coming up. Consider the following statements. Mahatma Gandhi was against Western education, whereas Rabindranath Tagore wanted to combine elements of modern Western civilization with the Indian tradition. 2. Mahatma Gandhi argued that education ought to develop a person's mind and soul, whereas Tagore said that creative learning is more important. 3. Gandhi was highly critical of machines and technology, whereas Tagore emphasized the need to teach science and technology. Select the correct answer. So you have to study about important personalities when it comes to UPSC. Gandhi, Ambedkar, Subhash Chandra Bose, Tagore are all very important. Okay. So it is in the syllabus. Do look into that and study. Alright. Okay. Fourth question. Which of the following Governor Generals is considered as the liberator of press in India? Okay. Which of the following Governor Generals is considered as the liberator of press in India? Lord Macaulay, Lord Lytton, Lord Ripon, Lord Hardinge. Macaulay, Lytton, Ripon, Hardinge. Should be an easy question. Correct answer is Macaulay. Okay, Lord Macaulay is the correct answer. Moving on to our fifth question. Consider the following statements with reference to Mopula Revolt. Very important. Mopula Revolt 2021 is basically the centenary anniversary of Mopula Revolution. So very important topic as well. Mopulas were the Hindus inhabiting the region where most of the landlords were Muslims. 2. The revolt acquired communal overtones from the beginning due to the religious similarities. Choose the correct answer. Mopula Revolution is very important for UPSC, especially because we are celebrating 100 years of Mopula Revolution in 2021. Okay, so correct answer is actually neither of the above. D is the correct answer. Alright, dear participants who are watching this quiz on YouTube, kindly join the quiz and participate directly using Unacademy learning app. Okay, the method, the instructions on how to participate is given in the screen. Please read them and join the quiz. Question 6. Consider the following statements about Khilafat movement. 1. Khilafat committee was formed under the leadership of Ali brothers to force the British government to change its attitude towards Indian Muslims. 2. The Mopula uprising in Malabar was an outcome of the evoked religious emotions due to the Khilafat movement. Choose the correct answer. Question number 6. Simple question. Correct answer option 1 only. Okay, 20% of you got that. Question 7. With reference to Shimla deputation, consider the following statements. 1. It was a deputation sent to Lord Chelmsford before the Montagu-Chelmsford reform of 1919. 2. It expressed sentiments of loyalty to British Crown. 3. Muslim demand for separate communal electorates made by the deputation was accepted. Select the correct answer. Very direct question, very theoretical question regarding the Shimla deputation. You will get the correct answer in written form at the end of this quiz in the app itself. You can go through that. Okay. Yeah. Sisandra Devi reading the quiz. Swatanta Kumari second place. Naveen at the third place now. 8th question. With reference to Indian Universities Act of 1904, consider the following statements. 1. It was based on recommendations made by Raleigh Commission. 2. Universities were given greater independence from the control of the governor. 3. The Act decreased university control over private colleges. Select the correct answer. Very simple question. Universities Act of 1904, which was passed by the Governor General Lord Curzon. Okay. So let's see how many of you get this right. Yeah, correct answer. Oh, nobody got that. Option C is the correct answer. Only one is correct. Okay. The autonomy of universities were reduced and it was more and more brought under governmental control in the Universities Act, which was actually in accordance with the Raleigh Commission. That is true. 9th question. With reference to the Gathar party, consider the following statements. The party had active members in countries such as Mexico, China, Philippines, Malaya, etc. 2. Many of the Gatharite leaders later founded Kirti and communist movements in Punjab. 3. It was inspired by Singapore mutiny under Jamandar Chisti Khan and Subedar Dunde Khan. Choose the correct answer. Regarding Gathar party, which of these statements is or are correct? 60% of you going for option D got it wrong. The answers with proper explanation will be given in the app itself. I request all of you to participate in this quiz using the instructions as shown in this screen. Only the participants will get the detailed explanation of answers in written form at the end of this quiz. Question 10. In the context of modern history of India, Surge and Plan was related to dash. Option A, famine policy. Option B, education policy. Option C, civil services reforms. Option D, judicial reforms. Surgeon plan is associated with which among the following? Very easy question actually, very simple question. Education is the correct answer. Moving on to our next question. 11. Which of the following was or were the provisions under the Gandhi-Irwin Pact? 1. Release of all political prisoners except those guilty of violence. 2. Civil disobedience movement would be withdrawn. 3. Reservation of the backward classes in the provincial legislature. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. Gandhi-Irwin Pact, very important, which came around in 1930. It was a heavily criticized pact also. And what is the 11th question? Time's up. How many got that right? 40%. Very good. Sisandil Devi still leading the quiz with a very good scorecard there. Question 12. With reference to Anglo-Burmese relations during the colonial times, consider the following statements. 1. The first Anglo-Burmese war resulted in the recognition of Manipur as an independent state. 2. The second Anglo-Burmese war took place during the reign of Lord Wellesley. 3. Burma was completely annexed after the third Burmese war. Select the correct answer. Regarding the Anglo-Burmese war, choose the correct answer. Yep, time is up. Alright, many of you got that wrong. Doesn't matter. Question number 13. Consider the following statements regarding agriculture under colonial rule. 1. India changed from an agrarian economy to an industrial economy due to the growing industries under British colonial rule. 2. Despite the occupation of a large population in this period, the process of stagnant development in their agriculture sector continued. 3. Total agricultural production increased due to expansion in agriculture in new lands during this period. Select the correct answer. Yeah. All right. Moving to the 14th question. In the context of Indian history, the principle of dual government refers to dash. A. Separation of powers between governor's office and the Imperial Legislative Council. B. Division of territorial and fiscal functions between the company and the Indian Nawab. C. Introduction of double government that is British India and princely states. And D. Division of Nizamat functions between British provinces and local zamindars. What is double government? Yes, almost all got that wrong except one, I think. 15th question. Dharma Sabha was established to counter reform the movements led by whom? Brahmo Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, Indian National Congress, and Congress Socialist Party. So Dharma Sabha was actually established as a counter reform movement against something else. So what is this something else? Okay, Brahma Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, International Congress, Congress Socialist Party. Dear learners who are watching this quiz using the YouTube platform, kindly switch over to Unacademy Learning app and participate in this quiz. Okay, only the participants will get the detailed answer key at the end of this session. Yes. So correct answer is Brahma Sabha. Okay. Brahmo Samaj. Question number 16. Consider the following statements regarding Wood's dispatch. 1. Wood's dispatch was prepared during the Governor Generalship of Lord Wellesley. 2. It recommended grant in aid system to encourage private enterprises. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? Regarding Wood's dispatch. Simple question, I guess. Yeah, time is up. And the right answer is, yeah, the 16th question is done. How many got that right? Okay, many of you got that wrong. Naveen moving to the second place there. 17. Which of the following statements is or are correct regarding Regulating Act of 1773? 1. It ended the British government's involvement in Indian affairs and the administration was left entirely to the East India Company. 2. In Bengal, the administration was to be carried out by Governor General and a council consisting of 4 members. Choose the correct answer. Question number 17. Time is almost completed. Yes. 95% of you going for option B there. Very good. Correct. 18. Which of the following statements is or are not correct regarding the Vartha scheme of education of 1937? 1. Idea behind the scheme was to provide education through some form of craft or productive work. 2. It proposed that proper teaching in the mother tongue should be the foundation of all education. 3. The scheme considered negative psychological effects of the work at a very young age. Choose the correct answer. Vartha scheme of education, okay, very famous, 1937, which has a lot to do with Mahatma Gandhi's article on Harijan. Okay. Okay, that is a very split answer. Very good. Some of you got this right. Moving on to 19th question. Quit India movement was launched in response to what? Very simple question. Please get this right. Quit India movement was launched in response to option A, Cabinet Mission Plan, option B, Cripps Proposal, option C, Simon Commission Report, and option D, Wavell Plan. Okay, Quit India movement. Very famous, 1942. The year is 1942. There itself the answer lies. Okay, 5 more seconds remaining. And the answer is option B, Cripps proposals. Okay, Quit India movement came as a response to Cripps proposals. Option B. Only 40% of you got that right. That's not good. 60% got it wrong. Question number 20. Consider the following pairs of organizations during the national movement and their leaders. Anjuman-i Mahiban-i Watan, Bhagat Singh. Anushilan Samiti, Pramodta Mittal. Abhinava Bharat Society, Veer Sarwakar. Choose the correctly matched pair. Anjuman-i Mahiban-i Watan, Bhagat Singh. Anushilan Samiti, Pramodta Mittal. Abhinava Bharat, Veer Sarwakar. Dear learners who are watching this quiz using the YouTube application, kindly switch over to Unacademy Learning app and join the quiz directly. How to join is given in this slide. Okay, download the app from Google Play or App Store. Click on the plus button from the menu. Click the test tab that is in the bottom portion of the screen and click the join quiz button and enter the quiz code 917504. Okay. Question number 21. With reference to Indian national movement, which of the following is the main aim of the Desai Liaquat Pact? Option A, to form an interim government at the center. B, to defend the Indian National Army against Indian INA trials. Option C, establishment of Constituent Assembly for drafting constitution for independent India. And option D, to collectively demand independence from the British. Desha Pact. Why is it important? And that is the question. Yeah, Srisandal Devi crossing the 1000 mark there. Very good. Naveen crossing 500. Again good. 22. With reference to Indian national movement, consider the following events. Formation of Indian Civil Liberties Union. The first Indian National Congress session in the rural is a rural one. The arrival of cabinet mission to India. Foundation of Provisional Government of Free India by Subhash Chandra Bose in Singapore. Arrange the above events in the chronological order of their occurrence. You have to arrange the above events in the chronological order of their occurrence. Okay. So kindly, I request all of you to participate in this quiz. How to join is given here in the slide. Alright, moving on. 23rd question. The objective of Sadler Commission appointed by the British government in 1917 was dash. Option A, study and report the problems of university education. Option B, define the jurisdiction of central and provincial governments. Option C, consider censorship of national press. And option D, improve the relations between Government of India and Indian states. Sadler Commission. Question 23 is over. Question 24. Where and when did Mahatma Gandhi first use his method of hunger strike to achieve desired goal? Natal in South Africa in year 1906, Champaran 1917, Ahmedabad 1918, Cape Town 1906. Hunger strike was used by Mahatma Gandhi for the first time where? Alright, I am just giving random answers, okay? Don't worry about that. The participants will get the correct answer in the quiz itself. That answer is also correct. Ahmedabad mill strike is the first hunger strike of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay. I request all the learners in YouTube, please join the quiz using Unacademy learning app. How to join this quiz? I have given the steps written here. Please read this and please join the quiz. Consider the following statements. In 1932, British Prime Minister announced communal award which provided for separate electorates for the depressed classes only. 2. In a statement negotiated with Mahatma Gandhi, Ambedkar agreed for depressed class candidates to be elected by separate electorates. 3. Pune Pact was an emphatic acceptance by the upper class Hindus that the depressed classes constituted the most discriminated sections of the Indian society. Which of the above statements is or are correct? '26. Consider the following statements with reference to the land revenue system under British in India. Permanent settlement system was introduced without a survey of land or assessing their value. Under the Ratbari system, there was no intermediary between the peasant and the government. Mahalwari system was introduced only in Punjab. Choose the correct answer. Okay, don't worry about these answers I am giving. That does not has to do anything to do with the quiz. Correct answers will be given in the quiz itself. At the end of this one, the detailed explanations will also be there. Okay. 27. The Veda Samaj was established under the influence of dash. Brahma Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, Ramakrishna Mission, Arya Samaj. Veda Samaj was established under the influence of dash. Brahma Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, Ramakrishna Mission, Arya Samaj. Twenty-seven. Brahma Samaj, okay. Question number 28. The Lex Loci Act of 1850 was related to dash. 1. Option A. Abolition of the practice of female infanticide. B. Right of a religious convert to inherit ancestral property. C. Abolition of the practice of sati. D. Right of widows to remarry. Lex Loci Act. Easy question. Lex Loci Act of 1850 is related to dash. Okay. Yeah, correct answer is regarding the condition of, allowing women to convert to inherit property. 29. With reference to Ahrar movement, consider the following statements. It was also led by former leaders of Khilafat movement. 2. It prohibited its members from taking part in electoral politics. Choose the correct answer. Regarding Ahrar movement, choose the correct answer. Yeah, time is up. Okay, most of you going for option D there. Question 30. Which one of the following foreign travelers elaborately discussed diamonds and diamond mines of India? Francis Bernier, Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, Jean de Thévenot, Abbe Barthélemy Carr. So, who among the following elaborately discussed diamonds and the diamond mines of India? Last 3 seconds. And time is up. Very split answer there. 3 people answered it. Okay, very good. 31. Consider the following statements about Charter Act of 1833. 1. It introduced an open competition system for the selection and recruitment of civil services. 2. Lord Canning was the first Governor General of India. Which of these statements given above is or are correct? Regarding the Charter Act of 1833, choose the correct answer. Time is up. No, none of the above. Okay. Canning came only during 1856, 1857, around that revolt time. He is the first Viceroy of India. Also, it was 1853 Charter Act which threw open the civil services to Indians as well. 32nd question. With reference to Nagpur session of International Congress 1920, consider the following statements. 1. Instead of having the attainment of self-government through constitutional means as its goal, Congress decided to have the attainment of Swaraj through peaceful and legitimate means as its goal. 2. The program of non-cooperation was endorsed. 3. Provincial Congress committees were organized on the lines of administrative convenience and entry fee was reduced to 4 annas. Choose the correct answer. Very famous Nagpur session of International Congress 1920. Famous for the non-cooperation movement. Yes. Question number 33. He ruled Punjab for almost 4 decades. He was born in Gurjanwala, now in Pakistan. He combined the strong points of the traditional Khalsa army with Western advances in warfare to raise Asia's most powerful indigenous army of that time. He also employed a large number of European officers, especially French, to train his troops. Above description is related to who among the following? Maharana Pratap, Maharana Sangram Singh, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, Raja Jayachandra. Very easy question. These kinds of passages can also be expected for UPSC. This year, a small portion of an Ashokan inscription was asked. You were asked to identify whose inscription was it. Okay. So basically, the correct answer here is Maharana Ranjit Singh. 34. Consider the following statements regarding Regulating Act of 1773. It was an act of Parliament of Great Britain. It designated Governor General of Bengal and created an executive council to assist him. It provided for the abolition of Supreme Court at Calcutta. Which of the above statements given is or are correct? Regarding Regulating Act. Time is up. Correct answer. Regulating Act is very you can study that from Lakshmikant textbook. Okay, it was an act passed by British Parliament, and also Supreme Court was actually established, not abolished. 35th question. Which of the following personalities was or were members of the Swaraj Party? Motilal Nehru, C. Rajagopalachari, Rajendra Prasad, Vittalbhai Patel. Motilal Nehru, Rajagopalachari, Rajendra Prasad, Vittalbhai Patel. Swaraj Party, which was formed at the end of non-cooperation movement by Motilal Nehru and C.R. Das, Chittaranjan Das. So who among the following were the members of that party? That is the question. Yes, time is up. Okay. Sreesandra Devi reading the quiz with 1392 points now. 36. During the civil disobedience movement, powerful agitation was organized against the infamous Cunningham Circular in which of the following states? Bombay, Punjab, Assam, Bengal. Cunningham Circular is very famous in which of the following states? That is the question. Okay. Bombay, Punjab, Assam, Bengal. I have taken a class regarding Cunningham Circular in one of my NCERT classes. I hope you remember it. Okay. Yeah, time is up. Question number 36. We have 50 questions. You can join the quiz even right now. And the method is actually given here. Okay, Cunningham Circular is in Assam. Okay, in the tea plantations. So how to join the quiz? You can read it from here in the PowerPoint presentation. Please join the quiz using the Unacademy learning app. 37. Consider the following statements. He popularized this term Satyameva Jayate. He was given the title Mahatma by Rabindranath Tagore. He is also remembered for his role in ending Indian indenture system, especially in the Caribbean. Who am I talking about? Madan Mohan Malaviya, Lala Lajpat Roy, Motilal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri. Mahamana, not Mahatma, Mahamana. Then Mohan Malaviya. Okay. So yeah, time's up. "38. Consider the following statements. He published the sensational Sudesha Geetangal in 1908 and a weekly newspaper named India. He published and edited a few other journals like Vijaya. He attended a number of annual sessions of International Congress and discussed national issues with extremist leaders such as Biban Chandrapal, Balagangadhar Tilak and VVS Iyer. Who is it? Bharathidasan, K. Kamaraj, Subramanya Bharati, V.O. Chidambaram Pillai. Sudesha Geetangal. Bharathidasan, Kamaraj, V.O. Chidambaram Pillai is the correct answer. Okay, V.O. Chidambaram Pillai. "39. Which of the following is or are the features of Pitt's India Act of 1784? It distinguished between the commercial and political functions of the company. It increased the powers of the company in relation to British Parliament. It established a system of double government in India." Choose the correct answer. Pitt's India Act of 1784. So basically, the board of control and the court of directors were separated, or two bodies were set up, and double government was started. Okay, correct answer. Easy question. This is given in a Lakshmikant textbook, first chapter. Question number 40. During the rule of East India Company, which of the following Indian states was the first to get annexed by Lord Dalhousie under the pretext of doctrine of lapse? Okay, first state to get annexed in the pretext of doctrine of lapse. Udaipur, Sambalpur, Satara, Oudh. Fortieth question. Time is up. The first state to be annexed in the pretext of doctrine of lapse is actually Satara in 1848. Okay. Question number 41. Which of the following is or are the reasons for the rise of revolutionary terrorism in 1920s during the freedom struggle? 1. Russian Revolution and the success of the young Soviet state. 2. Aim of revolutionaries to harness the revolutionary potential of the working class trade unionism for nationalistic revolution. Journals publishing memos and articles extolling the self-sacrifice of revolutionaries. Choose the correct answer. First question. All of the above. Okay, everything is correct. Question number 42. Consider the following statements. The setting up of Shore Committee is associated with educational reforms. After the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, the government of India constituted the Hunter Committee to inquire into the incident. Choose the correct answer. Okay, regarding Shore Committee and regarding Hunter Committee. Let's see how many get this right. There are two Hunter committees. Okay, one is education field, other one is Jallianwala Bagh. Okay. So statement 2 only is correct. B is the correct answer. Consider the following pairs of journals and their founders. New India, Annie Besant. Vande Mataram, Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Swadeshamitram, G. Subramanya Iyer. Choose the correct answer. Correctly matched pair only, okay. Not the incorrect one. This answer that is marked is wrong. Vande Mataram is actually written by, is it Balagangadhar Tilak? New India by Annie Besant. Swadeshamitram, Subramaniam Iyer. So choose the correctly matched pairs. Okay, many of you got it wrong. Question number 44. With reference to individual satyagraha, consider the following statements. Jawaharlal Nehru was the first to offer the individual satyagraha and Vinoba Bhave was the second person. It aimed to give another opportunity to the government to accept Congress demands peacefully. Select the correct answer. Individual satyagraha. Choose the correct answer. How to join the quiz? It is written in the PowerPoint presentation. Kindly follow the instructions and participate in this quiz. Okay. 44th question, time is up. Yeah, it is an opportunity for peaceful participation, but Vinoba Bhave was the first person to offer it. Second, Jawaharlal Nehru was second. Answer the following statements regarding J.B. Kripalani. He established Kisan Mazdoor Praja Party after independence. He was never the president of International Congress. Choose the correct. Choose the correct statements regarding J.B. Kripalani. Five more questions to go after this. Time is up. Okay, the answers will be provided at the end of the quiz in written format. Please be ready with the answers. Please be, all those who participate in this quiz will get the answer. Okay, you can please read them. In which of the following annual sessions of International Congress, Congress defined its goal of independence, which included the independence of the princely states? Belgaum session 1924, Lucknow session 1936, Haripura session 1938, Tripuri session 1939. Belgaum session, Lucknow session, Haripura session, Tripuri session. Belgaum session important because Mahatma Gandhi's the only time Mahatma Gandhi presided over the International Congress was in Belgaum session 1924. Lucknow session 36, Haripura session 38 because Subhash Chandra Bose presided over this one. Tripuri session again Subhash Chandra Bose was left International Congress and actually started the forward bloc around this time. Okay. 47. Consider the following pairs of pre-independence associations and their founders. Prarthana Samaj, Dr. Atmaram Pandurang. Theosophical Society, H.P. Blavatsky. Satya Shodhak Samaj, Jyotiba Phule. Choose the correct answer. Prarthana Samaj, Theosophical Society, Satya Shodhak Samaj. All of them are correctly matched. Okay, correct answer is option D. Everything is correctly matched. Prarthana Samaj, Atmaram Pandurang, Theosophical Society, Colonel H.S. Olcott and H.P. Blavatsky, Satya Shodhak Samaj, Jyotiba Phule. Everything is correct. Question number 48. Consider the following statements. Jatiya Sarkar was formed as a parallel government in Ballia in 1942 during the Quit India movement. 2. Aruna Asaf Ali ran Congress radio through underground activities during the Quit India movement. Use the incorrect answer. Okay, incorrect answer. Second statement is incorrect because it is not Aruna Asaf Ali, it is Usha Mehta. Regarding first statement, I won't tell you right now because it might give you the answer. Jatiya Sarkar was formed as a parallel government in Ballia in 1942 during the Quit India movement. It's actually correct. Okay. So incorrect statement is option 2, B. Question number 49. Consider the following statements. Maulana Azad formed a clan of non-violent revolutionaries called Khudai Khidmajars. 2. Sarojini Naidu was the first Indian woman to become the president of Indian National Congress. Choose the correct answer. Easy question. Very easy question. Khudai Khidmajars, also known as the red shirts, they were actually not made by Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad. It is actually brought in by who? Frontier Gandhi. Okay, Frontier Gandhi, or I am not telling the answer at the moment. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. Okay. Sarojini Naidu was the first Indian woman to become president of Indian National Congress. That is true. Easy question. 50. Last question. Consider the following statements. George V. George V announced the revocation of the partition of Delhi Darbar in December 1911. 2. Rashbihari Bose and Sachindra Sanyal staged a spectacular bomb attack on Hardinge on 23rd December 1912. Select the correct answer. Last question for the day, guys. It is over. The quiz is done. So please do subscribe to Unacademy using an educator code. Okay, my educator code is MSRW1. It is shown right here. Please make sure to subscribe to Unacademy using this code. Also, please follow me at my Telegram channel t.me/MSRW1 so that you can get all the class notes, PDFs, etc. etc. Okay, don't forget, please make sure to do all these things. So the quiz is over. And today's winner is Sri Sandal Devi with 1848 points. Second place for Naveen Gaur, 1356 points. And third place for Ashu Tandon with 1004 points. Varinda Kumari, Saubhagya, Seema all participated. Thank you for participating. Those who wants to read the solutions, all you have to do is click the solutions tab adjacent to the leaderboard and you can go through all the questions once again. By clicking the arrow adjacent to the question, you can see the answers also. Okay, so that is it. We have come to the end of this session. Next session of mine is at 8 p.m. today at Unacademy app. So please do join me at Unacademy app session. So until then, this is goodbye. Okay, see you. Bye bye.